Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of the Blue View podcast. Thank you so much for the support on the last episode with Con. That was brilliant. Obviously, I did a video about Tuchel signing and Lampard going, his thoughts and stuff on that, and that was very well received. So, thank you for the support on that. We've got another guest on today. Obviously, after our game against Wolves, 0-0 draw. I guess you could say it was a boring game, but we did have chances. Unlucky not to win, I think, in the end from that corner. Good clearance. So, yeah, anyway, the guest is Laurenz. So, Laurenz, would you like to introduce yourself to our listeners? Thanks for coming on.
Well, thank you for having me, first of all. It's been kind of a long time coming. So I'm looking forward to it. I am Laurenz, like you said, I'm part of Blues Fans TV. I run my own YouTube channel as well. So, that's what I do. That's how I kind of am in this position, I guess. And yeah, I mean, it was Tuchel's first game. Would have loved to get a win, but we still saw drastic changes to what we've been doing recently, which is exciting to see in just one training session.
Yeah, I was just about to say, a lot of you would know you from Blues Fans TV and obviously your YouTube channel, live streams, etc. So we will put those links if you guys aren't subscribed down below in the description. But anyway, getting on to the game, Laurenz, I think the first thing I want to ask you is your opinions on the lineup, because a lot of people were quite surprised at a three at the back. Personally, I'm not, because I know how tactical Tuchel is, and he often changes from three at the backs to 4-3-3s to 4-2-2s to 4-4-2s, 4-2-3-1s. You name it. This guy's got a load of formations up his sleeve. So personally, for me, I'm not surprised to see Tuchel using the three at back and going for experience in his first game. Do you agree with me, or do you think we should have played another formation? What is your opinions on the whole lineup situation?
Formation, I think, was okay. Today wasn't quite the issue, although the way we dominated Wolves, I don't think we needed a third centre-back, and I don't think that would have been a deciding factor in conceding a goal or so. I know they had two counter-attacking moments, but that was just when someone in midfield or some pass was just not good enough, rather than, okay, thank God we had an extra man there. But it was okay, because what was different today is compared to when we, in the past, saw a three-at-the-back system. So that was an actual three-at-the-back system, while under Conte, it was actually five at the back. And today was a proper three-at-the-back system, because especially on Callum Hudson-Odoi's side, even when Wolves were defending, he wasn't dropping back to be a right wing-back. It was kind of a three centre-backs, and then the wide players weren't wing-backs. They were a left mid and a right mid. They weren't just wingers. And that's how you can differently interpret a formation and make a 3-4-3, which all of us remember as sufferable, turn into attacking football. Okay, wasn't quite there in the end in terms of scoreline, but it was still very different. So I didn't have necessarily a big problem with it. The personnel, even though I do totally understand Tuchel after one training session to go with experience in a tricky situation as a squad, does make sense. I thought personally, Giroud was poor in pretty much every aspect of the game. To be honest, some of you guys might disagree. Fair enough, but I thought that I didn't necessarily see the need in playing Jorginho, even though his second half was decent, first half was poor. So those are the only qualms I have. And I don't know, if you're going to play one of our fullbacks, if Reece James is fit, I'd rather have one of, Ziyech play left mid, if you want to call it that, and do the whipping from the left, and then have Reece James on the right. And this isn't to say don't play Callum Hudson-Odoi, but then play him as part of the front three instead. Because if I want to have one of our two fullbacks as part of I'm going to assist, I'm going to score, I think Reece James is more suited to it. But that's now criticising a very speculative level, I guess, because I couldn't tell you now, could I, how that would have gone differently. But that's just my personal opinion. But in general, I didn't have an issue with it, but I'm just extremely excited for the games coming up against Burnley, against Spurs, to see what kind of teams or kind of lineups he'll go with. Because, like I said, he said before the game himself, this is probably the most unfair lineup I'll ever put out, because I couldn't have judged anybody yet.
Yeah, totally agree with you, to be fair. I agree with Giroud being poor. I want to go on to that, the striker situation, because we've probably got Giroud's biggest fan in the call as well. What was your thoughts on Giroud's game today? I'm struggling not to laugh, because I know how much it hurts you seeing Giroud play bad.
Yeah, I mean, it really pains me to admit it, but yeah, it just wasn't a Giroud performance that I could shout about. I think the thing is, I think under Tuchel, I don't think Giroud, it complements Giroud's play style at all. I think he won't get much game time. He's a bit too static for Tuchel's system. I think Tammy Abraham and Timo Werner are probably more suited him. We saw that today. I mean, I don't think Giroud was involved in the game as much as he, I guess, normally is and how he is in other systems. And I think we were all expecting that. But I think, like Laurenz mentioned, Tuchel wanted to go with experience today. So, I mean, I was surprised to see him start. But, I mean, if he's going with the experience, I mean, obviously, I think Giroud is a big personality to have in the team. But I think if today's performance is anything to go by, I don't see him getting many minutes under Tuchel at all, to be honest.
Laurenz, one of the things I was going to ask you is about Antonio Rudiger. First of all, because I haven't heard from you personally yet, your thoughts on the situation that came out in the week, obviously in the last couple of days, that Rudiger had been supposedly causing trouble, and then it obviously came out from the players, it seemed that he hadn't. First of all, which side do you believe? And second of all, in terms of obviously him under Tuchel, do you think that he deserves to be one of the first choice centre-backs over Zuma, considering Zuma has been pretty good this season overall? Do you agree with that decision? Will you back Tuchel for doing that? Or do you think that, you know what, Zuma hasn't done nothing wrong, he should be playing over Rudiger? What do you think?
To start with the second question of that, I do think in a 3 at the back system, Rudiger should probably play ahead of Zuma. Because first of all, pace. Second of all, how comfortable he is with the ball. So playing, especially as a left centre back, I do think Rudiger is just better suited to that. And as a right centre back, if Aspie is almost the perfect right centre back, so he definitely shouldn't be playing instead of Aspie. So in the 3 at the back, I see it. I almost agree with it. But in the 2 centre back system, 4 back system, I would strongly argue that Zuma should be playing ahead of Rudiger, and I would also strongly argue that Christensen should even be playing over Rudiger. Of course, there is some opponents where I'm like, okay, a combination of Thiago Silva and Christensen is just physically not quite imposing enough, so then you need one of the other 2 guys. But yeah, in the 3 at the back system, like I said, I can deal with Antonio Rudiger. As for this whole, shall we just call it a situation, I've been rather vague so far on Twitter about it, because I'm really not sure who to believe, because one part of me does feel like this is just a PR stunt by the club to calm things down, because it just feels too much like that. First of all, why is it only Rudiger being backed? Because, yeah, I know he was singled out by some comments, but a lot of players were blamed for being disruptive and kind of being part of the reason why Lampard is not a manager anymore. So why was Rudiger the only one that was backed? What about Kovacic? What about Kepa? What about Jorginho? What about Alonso? Why were they not backed? Makes no sense to me. Why was it just 2 players? And why at that point? You know what I mean? Like, there's been so many things said about these players over the years, and I've never seen any player come out about it. And I know Tammy Abraham hasn't been in the squad for that long, but Azpilicueta's been in the squad for a very long time. So if he felt that he had the right and the obligation to speak out when certain wrong rumours are flying about, then I feel like he should have and could have done that and would have done that many, many times previously. So I question it, but it does also put some question on the credibility of certain journalists, I guess. And I just say that because not every credible journalist stated it. And when you compare, obviously, the reporting on the situation by Matt Law and The Athletic, both sides seem to have incredibly detailed inside information. And the fact that one side reported this bullying stuff and singling out Antonio Rudiger, while another side didn't, is a bit strange. But I just can't. I mean, obviously, sometimes your source gets it wrong, right? I mean, Matt Law isn't in the club itself. He will have people telling him things. But it just seemed to me, he would have to be not just 100%, but 1,000% sure that this is true before he put something like that in an article. Because if this is wrong, and the situation right now, I mean, everybody on Twitter is like Matt Law in the mud and whatever else. This is seriously career damaging to him if it actually is wrong. Of course, it could be true, but the players in the club play it out that it's wrong anyway, and he looks bad regardless of whether he was right or not. But it is strange. What makes it also strange to me, and I'm sorry I'm going on so long about this simple question, is the fact that Rudiger was always the last guy that seemed like someone that would bully the youngsters to me. Because obviously, like I said, some reports singled him out as doing that, and some others said the senior players, which makes more sense to me because Rudiger has always been extremely close with, especially Callum Hudson-Odoi and a lot of the others. Tomori as well, of course, who's left now. But so I always saw him as probably the last of the senior players to be bullying young players. I didn't see that, and I don't want to single out people again, but the people that I could probably see doing things like that is probably someone like Alonso, even Jorginho. I could possibly see that. Kovacic, to me, played too much to be start bullying people for them playing too much, in my opinion. And Kepa, I don't know. I don't think Kepa has enough of a voice in the dressing room, especially with being aside with the goalkeepers most of the time, to be in this situation. So there are different parts of me. Some parts question it, some parts believe it, but I do think it is was certainly planned by the club to like speak out against it as players. Whether they might be right in doing it, but I don't think this was a player decision, a Tammy Abraham and Aspie decision. We're going to speak out about this.
Yeah, I kind of agree with you in the sense that, you know, I could see Rudiger, for me personally, I could see Rudiger being like causing a bit of trouble in terms of like, obviously he didn't have a great relationship under Lampard. So I could see him kind of like behind the scenes, maybe talking to other people and different managers and things like that. That was the information that came out. But in terms of like the bullying the youngsters, I think that's probably wrong. I'm not going to get Dubois' view on it, obviously, because I already know his and a lot of people do, and otherwise we'll be going on forever. And I don't want to talk about club politics, but guys, let me know your thoughts down below in the comments. Obviously, what you think of that whole situation, and it's been interesting to get Lauren's view on it as well. So, yeah. Anyway, moving back onto the game then, and specifically player choices. Dubois, I'm going to ask you, if we do play, I don't expect us to, but say we do play another three at the back, or that same exact formation or similar against Burnley, who would be your two in midfield? Would it be Kante and Mount? Would it be Mount and Kovacic? Would it be Jorginho and Mount? Would you, what would be your ideal pairing? Because I saw a lot of debate on Twitter tonight. Everyone was saying, you know what, Kovacic is playing good, but I'd do this, I'd do that, I'd do, I'd play Mount, I'd play, Havertz even in that pivot. So, what do you think? Who is your ideal two in midfield if we do play that formation again?
Yeah, if we play that formation again, it's hard because I thought today, Kovacic, I was really impressed with Kovacic. I think, especially like not just the aspect of his game that we know he's good at, his ball progression and how he gets out of tight spaces, but his defensive ability was showing through a little bit as well. In the counter press, especially, I think there was a moment where we lost the ball and it was, Kovacic was in there straight away winning the ball back, and I think that's quite important to Tuchel's football. So I think Kovacic, I'd keep in if we're basing it. I mean, I guess it's a form based off that game. Probably I'd partner him with Mount because I think Mount's engine and, he's proven that he can play well, not only deeper, but further forward. So I'd probably go with Kovacic and Mount. But I will say, though, that if Kante is back for Burnley, I wouldn't be surprised if Tuchel went with Kante, because obviously I just recently in the post-match interview, he's speaking highly of Kante, saying he'd always wanted him at his previous club. So it's one where I'd have gone probably Kovacic and Mount, but I'm unsure because I just don't know what Tuchel's thinking. It's way too soon to form any patterns, I think, in my opinion.
Yeah, that's fair enough. And I think that in terms of Kante, a lot of people obviously worried, including myself, that his recurring injuries, he's getting a bit older. I think some fans are open to, have him sold. That was definitely a conversation that I see quite a lot. I can see both sides of it, but obviously under Tuchel, if he wants him, happy to obviously keep him. No, the club will be as well, because I'm sure that Kante will stay if Tuchel can persuade him. I think that was the main news coming out. But, Kante wasn't very happy with the constant change in the managers, but I'm sure he can easily be persuaded to stay. And I think he's going to play quite a big role if we can keep him fit, obviously because of his intensity and the amount of interceptions he makes. I think he'll be vital in midfield, especially in the way that Tuchel likes his teams to play. So, yeah, I think that'll be interesting. So, Laurenz, because we're not going to me and Dubois aren't really going to be doing a preview for the Burnley game, I want to ask you basically your preferred lineup and formation. It may not be what Tuchel will do, but from what you've seen tonight and the way we play, what do you think we should be playing against Burnley, and what is your lineup?
Burnley is a really difficult one because obviously we know how they play. They love a long ball. They love winning a second ball. They love being physical up top, and they love just blocking down everything there possibly is to block down and sit deep and whatever else, right? I would love to see a 4-2-2, 4-4-2, 4-2-4, whatever you want to call it. Whether that's realistic or not, I don't know. I don't see a three at the back system necessary against Burnley, shall we say. And I think you can call it a 4-2-3-1 as well. And whoever the number 10 is, most likely Havertz, play very close to the striker. That would be fine. I'd be cool with that. But the double pivot situation is very tricky, because if we play like today, Tuchel clearly needs and wants a playmaker in there. And if we have a Kante Mount situation, I don't really see either of them being that. Mount can be that, but Mount will still be a little bit too high to be that. So that will be interesting, and that's why people have spoken about Jorginho will get a new lease of life for Chelsea, which is probably part of it. Of course, Kovacic was good tonight. I could also very much see, not against Burnley, but in the future, unless he's obviously loaned out, Billy Gilmore playing a big role in this situation. But they can't say one, because Tuchel praised him, right, and said he wanted him at PSG all these years, and now he finally has him, kind of thing. So he clearly wants him, but I'm very intrigued to see who he plays next to him. But like I said, a 4-2-2, if I want to call it that, I'd be cool with, assuming Kante isn't fit, right, I would play probably a Kovacic Mount, but really tell Mount you need to sit and not go too aggressive. Have Hudson-Odoi on the left, Ziyech on the right, and then a front two of either Werner and Kai or Werner and Tammy, depending on Kai's situation. Is he fit to play again? Presumably. I would like to see that. I would like to see that, because what we didn't have today with just Oli up top, we didn't ever have anyone going deep down the middle. And also Oli today struggled really hard today with his one-touch football. Kai tried to link up with him very many times, and almost all of the time, Dubois, Oli kind of messed it up. And so that was obviously an issue. Will that be so much better with a Kai and Werner situation? I would hope so, but you can never be 100% sure. But I think the deeper a team sits, the more proper strikers you have, and not just wingers, the more easier it is to penetrate them, but also the better you can penetrate them, because you can just tear their players apart a little bit, and they just have, if you just have one striker, they have 3, 4, 5 people, unlike your one striker, and it's so difficult to find them. And then when you have two, you ease it up a little bit for both of them, if that makes sense, which is why I would go for that. But whether Tuchel will or not, we'll have to wait and see, I guess.
Yeah, again, that's fair enough. And guys, I think, if you agree with Laurenz, leave your comments down below. What would your lineup be? Obviously, you can reply to the tweet when we put it out as well, on any of these topics that we've discussed tonight. I guess the last thing I want to ask both of you, Tuchel has come out and basically said, he wants to create a really good team spirit here. He wants to create a team that is able to play 3 days with intensity, because obviously that's the way he likes to play. I don't know what to think about this, because reports when Lampard was sacked, in the Athletic article that I think we all read, there was reports that the team struggled to play constantly. Lampard was putting them through a lot in training in terms of the pace, the intensity, and some of the players couldn't hack it. And I think they're in for a shock, to be honest, because Tuchel seems like a guy that will do exactly the same, if not more. So going to you, Dubois, first. Do you think eventually, when the fans get back into the stadium, and just online, really, and by online, we're only really talking about the objective people. We're not talking about the people that hate on Tuchel. We're talking about the people that can see both sides of the story. Do you think that the overall fan base will warm to Tuchel, or do you think that they're just going to hold a grudge because they like Lampard, and obviously there's been discussions about circus continues and all this. So yeah, what are your thoughts on what Tuchel can create at this club in terms of spirit between the fans?
I think, well, to put it bluntly, I think majority of the fan base, I think they should warm to Tuchel and the way he's playing. And I mean, if he is aiming to create a team spirit, like he just said, I think if you're comparing it to Lampard, yeah, we were told that the players found it hard in terms of, the switching up. I think he's in for. I think one thing with Tuchel as well is that he will rotate his teams a lot, and that's something we've seen at PSG and also his previous clubs. He's been quite flexible in his teams, like what he'll tailor it to the opponent. So I think within the squad, we won't have an issue in sense of, player politics might not be as big of an issue if his game time is I guess, fairly spread. And, if he's picking on merit, which is sometimes we didn't see under Lampard. In terms of the fans, I think it'll take a bit of time to get everyone on board because, like you said, there's always people. This happened before, especially when Lampard was in charge. You had, I guess, those who still wanted Sarri back, that sort of thing. So I think it's going to be hard. But I think if we start producing results on the pitch, that can unite the fans. That's a very good way to unite the fans. And I think Tuchel is a very good tactician, and he has the ability to do that. But I think objectively, if you're talking about the average fan, I don't really see any reason to panic or start creating noise now because he's only been in the country for 24 hours, if that. So it baffles me to see some people, already spreading negativity about the man. And if anything, tonight's performance is quite promising because he's managed to get his ideas across within like 2 hours. So I think he'll do a good job as a whole. And if he gets the results on the pitch, I'm sure we can get the majority, if not all of the fans behind him. But it might take a while, considering obviously who Frank Lampard was. And to some people, obviously they can't let that go yet. So I guess it depends on that.
Yeah, I totally agree. We have to back him. I'm not sure, Laurenz, if you agree, but obviously I think he's going to obviously see out his contract. I'd be very, very shocked if he didn't see out at least 18 months. And obviously he has the option to extend after that. So the last two questions for Laurenz before we leave. Laurenz, I know it's quite hard at the moment to predict, but who do you think will be or will turn up to be, by the end of the season, Tuchel's best player?
Oh, that is a tough question. Tuchel's best
We're going to get it on
player.
record. We're going to keep it on record and see if you're right.
Exactly. Like, so we'll clip it up. It's really difficult to judge because, going by today, Hudson-Odoi has a shout. Christian Pulisic definitely has a shout. We know that Tuchel likes him. Kai Havertz, I think that is only more and more to come from him. Will he quite be the best player under him yet this season? I don't think so. Next season, I think he very much so could. So I think it's between one of those two, personally, between the Pulisic and Hudson-Odoi. Maybe Ziyech, but personally, I don't even think Ziyech fits Tuchel actually that well. The work rate, yes, but in the play style, no. Because maybe against, maybe I'm in for a bit of a surprise because the Premier League do sit deeper than pretty much any other league does, which is a bit of a myth that people always think the Premier League is the fastest and best league. Well, it's fast, but tell me how many games have we played where the opponent doesn't just sit back? You don't get it in any other league. Even if you're Barcelona, PSG, not everyone just sits back. Just watch a Bayern Munich game. The amount of teams that proper just sit back against Bayern is like 2 in the whole league. So I'm not sure whether that's why Ziyech will still consistently be more useful than he might have been at a team like PSG, who just went for pace all over the place up front. But if I have to name one player, I'm gonna name Pulisic, but I'm really Pulisic, however he likes his name pronounced. I'm really not sure. Like, I know you're gonna say, you're gonna hold me to it and stuff, but I think it's an almost impossible one to answer. But actually, because it's just a one-word answer, I really wonder, what would you guys think? Who will be the best player by the end of the season?
I think Hudson-Odoi. I personally think he's going to do really big things under him, just because of the way, he can play that wing-back position, and he's also so good on the wing. So, actual wing, we're not talking about wing-back. So, I think he's going to play a lot, and I think he's going to be... I just think his development's going to go through the roof. I said this a few months ago as well, that if we get like a Tuchel or an Nagelsmann or someone with actual tactics, unlike Lampard, can't speak, then I think his development will go through the roof. So for me, Hudson-Odoi. Dubois, what do you think?
I Hudson-Odoi to be my first choice, but because you've already said him, I'm just going to give another one. I actually think Tammy Abraham will be one of a promising player under Tuchel. If you talk about the players he's worked under, Aubameyang at Dortmund, he likes to have someone who can hold the ball, link up play, but also got that pace, etc. And I think Tammy's profile might suit him a bit. So it's one to keep an eye on. I think Tammy could thrive under his system more than anything. And he's already started promisingly this season. So I think Tammy, if not Hudson-Odoi.
I would love
Yeah,
that.
and
I
also,
would love that if Tammy
yeah,
could be there. But you did. I did kind of think of something. Pulisic will probably not be fit enough to be the best player. So even though it's already been taken, I'm also going to go with Hudson-Odoi just because I kind of forgot that Pulisic likes to be injured sometimes. So.
yeah, that is true. We need to try and maintain Kante and Pulisic's injuries this season. Although we've tried so many times before and it's not worked. It's not worked so far. So you can't really see the injuries going down either with the high intensity training and stuff that Tuchel likes to do. But hopefully hopefully he manages it well. And obviously, as I mentioned before, the lineup's changed quite a lot anyway. So I don't think they'll be starting constantly like Kante used to. So I don't even think Kante can do it anymore in terms of starting consistent games after game after game after game. He's far more injury prone. So I think that's going to be an interesting one to watch over the course of this season. And guys, I mean, there's not really much else to talk about from today's game. It's only one game, but we have seen some promising signs. This isn't the system. We're not going to be playing three at the back all the time. So I think, we created 5+ chances today, over 800 passes. We dominated the game. We had the ball the whole time, pretty much. And also, something I noticed as well is I thought our pressing was much more sort of organised and under Lampard. We hunted in packs off the ball. I read something earlier which said, Tuchel before has said to his players that he gives them 5 to 6 seconds to win the ball back. And I think, that quote was going through my head when we lost the ball, because I was like, oh my God, these guys are pressing like mad. They were like a pack of hyenas just going for people. I was like, geez, this is crazy the way they press all together and hunt down the ball. So hopefully we can keep that up, because we could dominate a lot of games, I think. So, yeah, I think that's going to wrap up the episode. Laurenz, any final words on, obviously, this episode and your time on here and just in general? Because, obviously, I've followed you for a long time as well, and like your live streams and stuff like that. So hopefully we can do more collabs in the future. And, thanks for coming on today.
Well, you're very welcome. Thank you for having me, first of all. Really appreciate it. And first of all, I had a good time, and I definitely agree with the pressing thing. It's just this modern German manager thing of, Klopp says the same thing. You lose the ball for the first 5 to 7 seconds, you go crazy trying to win it back. If you don't, then you go back into formation and defend as a unit. And that's what we saw. And it was, and I'm the last one to start slandering Lampard by any means. Even though I did think it was time and necessary to get rid. But the fact that Lampard in January said, things like pressing takes time when you get 6 new players, and it took Thomas Tuchel 1 training session to get the pressing 50 times as good as we've seen it under Lampard, other than at the start when they still knew how to do it under Sarri, is very telling to me.
Yeah, I actually agree with that as well. So, some of, that quote that you said from Lampard's kind of been by Tuchel, because he's got the team pressing much better than what Lampard did. But anyway, guys, we're not going to keep going back and forth on Lampard, because, I'm sure you're sick of hearing comparisons and some see it as a dig and stuff like that. But it's just us being honest and what we can see as fans. But anyway, guys, that's going to wrap up the episode. Thank you for listening. Another chilled out episode today. We'll have another episode, obviously, a review after the Burnley game, and maybe one before that. We'll see. Guys, thank you for listening. Thanks to Laurenz for coming on. We'll have his links down below in the subscription to his YouTube channels, and obviously Balloons Fans TV, which he's a part of. So if you're interested, go and subscribe. Highly recommend it. Good content, good live streams. So guys, go and support another fellow Chelsea fan if you haven't already. And guys, we will see you in the next episode. Subscribe if you're new, and we're out.